Do you think that Golden State closes it out, or do you think that Boston extends this one to a game 7?
Oh, personally, I think this is a wrap. I called this series going 6. I did not expect Golden State to win in the fashion that they did in Game 5, especially as that fourth quarter kind of continued. But I mean, listen, if I was a betting man, I told Kyle this during the game. I was giving him like play-by-play updates. I called Wiggins going for 25. I was hoping that Poole would have pulled off 20, but he got 14. And then you go and you look at Steph. I said Steph would have a really, really bad night, either 20 points, if not less. Unfortunately, I did say that this game could potentially go to overtime, but Golden State pulled away in the fourth. And I did also call Jaylen Brown going for 30, and he only had 18. The point of the matter is, for whatever reason, Boston just absolutely shit the bed in the fourth quarter. The roles were reversed, and Kyle and I were talking about it kind of as it happened. Golden State had a horrible third quarter, but then they turned it on in the fourth, which has been the opposite of the entire series. They've always dominated the third and then kind of slipped up in the fourth, which let Boston claw their way back into the game. And in 2 of those games, Boston was able to come back and win. Jason goes for 27. Jaylen goes for 18. Marcus Smart goes for 20. I mean, your big players were able to produce those numbers. But again, I look at the box score and I say, well, what about the rest of the Celtics? You go and you look at Al Horford, 9 points. Robert Williams, not a scorer, but he was able to go out there and give you 10 points and 8 rebounds. So you can't be mad at Robert because, he is limited and is still playing with a bum knee. But you look at the bench, Grant with 3. Derek White only had 1 point. Peyton Pritchard had no points. Peyton Pritchard he played 5 minutes. Yeah, he had no points. So they literally ran a very tight ship. They ran a 7-man rotation, and everybody that wasn't a starter wasn't able to contribute. And again, it's just very, very weird to me that this flip-flopped in terms of in the second half. And then, of course, you look at Golden State. Draymond Green didn't go out there and give you 15 points. He was able to at least get you 8, but where he thrived, which was where Draymond needs to, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He had a steal, a defensive presence. He did foul out again, but he was able to kind of keep his composure and do what it is he needed to do. Steph Curry goes for 16. Clay goes for 21. Wiggins for 26. Gary Payton II was massive with 15. And I mean, like I said, man, everybody was able to contribute that actually played meaningful minutes outside of Kevon Looney, who had his worst game of the series, and he only had 2 points. But Golden State did what they needed to do. They showed that when Steph wasn't able to perform, they got it. If Steph fell short, the teammates picked him right up. If Andrew Wiggins is out here giving you back-to-back games of 12, 13 plus rebounds a game and giving you 18 plus points in the last 2 games, Andrew Wiggins is going to be a consistent go-to player at that mid-range position and someone that gets the ball in transition. Jordan Poole already leads that second unit. Klay Thompson over the last couple of games has found his rhythm to a certain extent, shooting 50% from the field in 2 of those games. So you look at it and you say, well, this is boding, like Golden State is kind of hitting that rhythm. They're hitting that stride right now to where you say, if they don't close this out, I have faith that they can close it out in 7 because of how consistent they've become in the last 2 games, again, in their 2 victories. My biggest concern is just the fact of Golden State is known to turn the ball over. This is their best game, arguably all postseason. They only had 6 turnovers. That is perfection. That is as close to perfection as you're going to get at this late in the season. And I think that shows and speaks volume to the fact that they were able to limit those turnovers. Now, the negative part is they didn't shoot the ball well. 22% from 3. That's not going to happen again. They were just off. Steph did not make a single 3, and he took 9 of them. Steph's not going to have another game like this. Kevon Looney is not going to have another game where he only has, 4 rebounds? No shot. Draymond Green is hopefully going to gain his confidence, and they're going to continue to see this go and right the ship. I think this ends in Boston. I think Golden State hoists up that 4th trophy, and Steph Curry will be hoisting up that Finals MVP trophy. I think it's over.
Well, I'm kind of in a similar sentiment with you about Golden State winning the Finals. I'm just saying it's not going to happen in Game 6. I think Golden State will get that in Game 7. If I am picking Boston, for this game. And I think Boston actually has a pretty good blueprint to work with, despite the fact that they lost game five on the road in San Francisco. When I look back at game six specifically, or game five, excuse me, Boston did a great job forcing the ball out of Steph's hands and allowing other guys to get opportunities to knock down shots. Now, granted, Boston's going to have to live with the fact that Andrew Wiggins probably popped off, probably had the playoff game of his life, scoring 26 points. I got another great performance with rebounding the basketball. I think in the last two games combined, I think he's had 30 rebounds. He had 17, I think, in game four, and then he had 13 in game five. So Andrew Wiggins has really kind of stepped up in a big way for Golden State the last couple games. I think he cools off a little bit. I think that environment in Boston is going to be very hostile against Golden State. I think that Golden State's going to feel the pressure a little bit. And I think Boston is going to force Golden State into a situation where they turn the ball over consistently. I think this is a game where Boston's defense, they'll definitely ratchet it up, and they're going to force Golden State to probably have a game where they're going to have double digit turnovers in this game. When I look at game five specifically, it's like Kevin outlined. Boston had a great third quarter. I mean, they outscored Golden State in that quarter by 11 points, 35-24. But Boston just couldn't knock down any shots in that fourth quarter consistently. And Golden State was able to take advantage of that and just power through Boston in that regard. When I look back at game five specifically, I really think that Jordan Poole hitting that buzzer beater three at the end of the third quarter really damaged Boston, because I just am of the mindset that Golden State was able to kind of carry that momentum after Poole hit that buzzer beater three. That just kind of carried them through the fourth quarter and led them to that game five win. I think in this game, I think what we're going to see is something very similar to what we've seen in the past. I think Golden State will have a good third quarter in game six, but I think they're going to fall off in the fourth, because I think Boston's going to really tighten up defensively, and they're going to force the ball out of Steph's hands, and they're going to force guys like Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, and maybe Andrew Wiggins to possibly beat them. Now, granted, it worked against Boston in game five because Andrew Wiggins had a relatively good game. Jordan Poole, Gary Payton II, Klay Thompson had solid games. I just don't think that Golden State is going to be able to replicate the success that they had in game five going into game six. So I think Boston is going to do solid here. I think Jason Tatum is going to be solid in this game. Their backs are up against the wall, so I wouldn't be surprised if Jason goes alpha mode here and tries to get a 35-point performance. I think Jaylen Brown's going to have another solid performance where I think he puts up around 20 to 25. I mean, to me, when I look at Boston's role players, they're going to have to step up huge here. They're going to have to get another solid performance from Marcus Smart. He had a solid game in game five, scoring 20 points, but you got to have better performances from guys like Derek White and maybe guys like Peyton Pritchard and Grant Williams. I mean, Derek White only scoring 1 point in 21 minutes in game five is not going to cut it. And Derek White's been very solid in good stretches for Boston, not only just this NBA Finals matchup, but throughout the postseason as well. If he's able to get into a good rhythm, knocking down some 3-point shots, I think that will set up Boston pretty well here. But one of the guys that I've failed to mention is Al Horford. Al Horford, outside of game one, has relatively been non existent. And I've mentioned this about Al Horford before. Horford will have that one game where he puts a team on his back and he carries Boston to the promised land. There was that one game that took place in the second round when they were playing the Milwaukee Bucks, where he just put the team on his back and carried them. And very similar situation took place in the finals here in game one, where he was just knocking down 3-pointers left and right. And since then, he's been mediocre at best, or he's just been spotty. I think spotty is probably a better description of what Al Horford's been since game one. They're going to have to get 10 to 15 points from Al Horford, just because his production on the offensive side has just been kind of lacking since that game one. But overall, when I look at just how I think this game's going to play out, Boston's going to tighten up defensively. They're going to force Golden State to turn the ball over. Like I said, Golden State's going to turn the ball over at least 10 times, if not more than that. And I think they're going to get solid production from Jason. I think Jason's going to go God mode. I think Jalen's going to have a solid game, not just on the offensive side, but on the defensive side as well. And I think Derek White, I think he comes back after that dreadful game 5 performance, and I think he goes out and scores in double figures. And I could say the same thing for Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart, I think, is going to have a solid game as well. But I got Boston winning this one. I think Boston's actually going to win this one by 10 points, if not more. And I think they're going to force a game 7 that would make this series go back to San Francisco. So I think when it's all said and done, I think we got a series going to 7 games here.